All right, in this video, I improved the vent line routing for the XMR 850. The vent lines were kind of all over the place like they are with most Can-Ams, so basically I got them all up to the very top of the snorkel pod, and I also did some teardown to smoke test the intake airbox plenum thing, giant contraption, and we also smoke tested the belt box. So everything looks pretty watertight, and I will be dunking her tomorrow to do the rest of the test, but so far so good. Can-Am looks like they got everything sealed up, and all the boots working pretty good on this machine. Look at it breathing. Pretty good way to visualize the airflow. No, that smoke is not bad for the engine or anything. All right, now we're smoke testing the belt, so we get the smoke going into the intake there. You can see a little bit coming out of the exhaust, which is what you'd expect. But everywhere else I can look around the belt box, around all the belt plumbing, looks really good. So Can-Am is getting a win. They got the belt sealed up good and the intake sealed up good from the factory. Good to see. My XMR 700 was the same way, but my Gen 2 Can-Ams, I found a leak on every single one. So good to see that they're getting better with their plumbing, I should say. Yeah, I don't see any smoke down here. This is great. I've also looked at all this with a real light already, not my cell phone. But yeah, you can see it starting to flow out of the belt exhaust there, which is what happens, right? Air goes in here, cools the belt, comes out there. If you want to see something funny, we can go ahead and start it up and it'll really come out of the exhaust. I've been playing with this for a while and I decided to leave most of the intakes where they were, but I wanted to fix the vent line situation. So I ran all the vents up to the top of the very top of the pod. And you're probably thinking, why do you want your vents higher than your intakes? Well, you really don't, but this will guarantee that my vents will be nice and dry. So gas tank vent has a little filter on it now, doesn't have a one-way valve. The other gas tank vent is down here, is plugged, as you can see. So now all the gas tank breathes through this one hose, and that's all the way over here. You don't want this hose in your intake track because the fumes could flood out the airbox. So any fumes that come out of here will go down this way, and yeah, should be pretty good. They shouldn't end up in the belt intake too much, but you definitely want to keep them out of the engine intake because it'll fill your airbox with fumes and you'll have long crank times. It'll displace the oxygen basically. This is the water pump weep hole line, this one right here. This next one is the front and rear diff, so I teed them together. So that's the front diff, that's the rear diff. So that's front and rear diff right here. And then this last one right here is the sub-transmission, this line. So all those breathers are high and dry. And then on this side, you've got your radiator overflow. It used to hang down. I flipped it up so it's nice and high. And then you got the breather for the fan motor for your radiator fan. So all the vent lines are at the very top of the pod. Don't have to worry about that anymore. Of course, this little guy goes like this. Sits in there. Voila. So all the vent lines are up nice and high now. I got to put a few zip ties and get them routed right there. But that'll look nice, and they're a lot higher than they were. Honestly, from Can-Am, they were just laying down here. I stuck them where they should be by design. But yeah, so pretty happy with that. Get all the vent lines up high. All right, someone did that. I think it's kind of clever. See that little zip tie right there? That is raising up my engine intake about 1.5 inches. So it has an accordion down there that's very stretchy. So I just stretched it up to get a little more height on the engine intake. So now my belt intake and my engine intake are pretty high, and as long as I keep this above the water line, I'm good to go. Can-Am put a lot of engineering into ducting all this to make it quiet, and this machine is very quiet for 1000. The exhaust and the belt noise is very tolerable. So that's why there's there's a piece of accordion tube down in there, the air dampener, a noise damper. That's why this is all shielded, and it has different sections that it breathes in. A lot of this is for dust and sound, not so much for making it super waterproof, unfortunately. Okie dokie, so continuing the tear down. Pulled off this piece here, which is a little storage box for your cell phone. Comes off with 3 fasteners, 1, 2, 3. Those are the 3 fasteners right there. And then I pulled out these 4 that hold these fenders on to give you an idea of what's kind of behind here. So there's your thermostat housing, all your coolant pipes. There's the Y pipe. So your throttle body is actually up here, electronic throttle body. You get your 2 fuel lines going to each injector, here and here. And yeah, pretty sweet. So that's your gas line from the fuel pump. And if we go around this side, you can't see as much over there because it's just a bunch of heat shields, but might as well show you. So you got your winch wires, gas tank, rear diff vents, and that's where your belt exhaust dumps the heat out right there. So it takes the heat and blows it down here from your belt to try to cool the exhaust gases from the engine down. And there's your throttle body. So, yep, now that I got this apart, I'm going to smoke test everything because I don't trust Can-Am as far as I can throw them. So I got my smoke leak detector there, and we're gonna start filling this plenum with smoke first, looking for leaks from the plenum, and then we're gonna start looking for leaks in the belt system. So this is something I do with every new machine I buy. And I know this is a extreme mud racer, so you shouldn't have to do this. It should be ready to go, but Can-Am has screwed me so many times that I am very, very thorough with checking all the Snorkel stuff, even on a factory Snorkel machine. But yeah, so we got enough access now. I think we can look for leaks. This is a crazy plenum. It looks like it's kind of bonded together, the two halves. There's no fasteners holding them together. It looks like it's glued. And the airbox starts here and it goes all the way to here. So it's definitely a crazy intake track. Air filter monstrosity. It is extremely goofy. This sits down in this hole in the airbox like this, and it plugs in there, which I'm not a huge fan of. It's a paper filter with a foam pre-filter on it. It's not oiled. This comes off. I mean, I just feel like this has a ton of potential leak points and could let water and sand through, but whatever, kind of goofy. You can see how that crazy intake pipe comes in and does like a spiral thing. Can-Am intakes are always just freaking wild to me, the way the intake track works. All right, got the smoke machine going, filling up the intake track. I pulled the air filter out, and good news, I don't see any smoke leaking anywhere around this plenum or onto the boots that go onto the throttle body. I think this is all sealed up very well. It's pressurized with a couple PSI right now, and it's full of smoke, and I'm not seeing anything. So let's go ahead and create a leak just so you can see what it would look like. So if we pop these, so you see immediately smoke starts coming out there. That's what a leak would look like. So I'm convinced that the engine intake track is very sealed. We can create another leak. If we look down here, we can see that Can-Am left off the hose clamp for this. You see how the smoke just starts pouring out of there very nicely. So I'm pretty convinced the intake track's very sealed. I need to put hose clamps on both of these boots. But yeah, they get a pass for that so far. I'm gonna turn this thing off. It's getting real smoky.